Well, a cannabis shop with locations in Duluth and Austin, Minnesota, has closed its doors. Superior Cannabis sold a selection of CBD and hemp products. Northern News Now's Hannah Morgan spoke to the president of the company to learn the reason behind the decision and now joins us live in studio. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Madison. So since 2020, Superior Cannabis Company had a location in Canal Park, which was their second store, the first one being in Austin, Minnesota. And this announcement was made on social media a few weeks ago. The president, Jeff Brinkman, says that he was vocal about his concerns with the 2023 Minnesota legalization law. He says that he tried to warn legislators that the bill would not support small businesses. He believes that the state cannabis office only works in favor of big companies, like he claims the slow rolling of small business licenses and making the farming qualifications difficult. However, Brinkman wants to express his gratitude to his customers over the years.
These customers that we've had, we just are immensely appreciative of their support. And, I want to apologize that we can't keep things going at this point, but the market kind of dictates.
I contacted the Office of Cannabis Management, but have not heard back yet. While both locations are now closed, their online store will be available while supplies last. The move comes after the company had closed its shop in Superior over the years. Reporting live in studio, I'm Hannah Morgan, Northern News Now.